Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Java Chat. It's Coffee with Mike here, and today I get the honor of sitting with a gentleman who I've been waiting for this one for a while. I have here with me Mr. Terry Jones. Terry, thank you for coming and joining us on Java Chat today.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. For those of you that aren't familiar with the name, I'm going to have him go ahead and share a little bit, but this gentleman is very, very much an icon in the travel industry, and I'll let him explain why. Terry, give us a little bit about your background.
Well, I started my career as a travel agent. Pardon me. I thought I was going to Vietnam, and I got rejected because of my eyes. And
Wow.
So my college roommate had a free pass. His dad was a pilot on TWA, and he said, I'm going to spend a year going around the world. So two of us joined him. I came back and wanted to get in the travel business. My dad wasn't thrilled because he had just gone to college. But I went to school at night and learned how to write tickets and do the pricing and all that stuff because it was all done by hand.
Yeah.
And I became a travel agent, and 6 months in, my boss said, let's go do a startup, my manager. So we did a travel startup focused on travel to Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. And travel there was booming at the time because Nixon and Britain were trying to be friends. And that turned into the 50th largest travel agency in the United States after about 5 years. And then I jumped to a computer company that had computerized our company. It was a mini computer company that did accounting and ticketing and the back office stuff for travel agents. And that company was acquired by American Airlines after about 6 months. So I was working at American Airlines. I became president of that division. I worked my way up. I was in charge of all the programmers. I had 500 programmers, and I ran operations. And then I became CIO of American Airlines. So I was CIO of Sabre, the computer division of American Airlines. And while I was doing that, we had a little online product called Easy Sabre. And that was on AOL and CompuServe. It was one of the very first products that let you book.
I remember that product, actually.
Yeah, we had about 200,000 customers, something like that.
Huh.
And they eventually, because Sabre's job was to automate travel agents, we had 40,000 travel agents in the field with our systems, the American Airlines system that made reservations. The travel agent said, hey, what are you doing with this online stuff? You better turn that off. You know, you're selling bullets to the enemy. And the chairman Bob said, no, give it to Jones. He's over in IT. He used to be a travel agent. We'll hide it over there. Well, I got it. And it was 12 people. And I said, you know, gosh, it's 1996. Why isn't this on the internet? So we put it on the internet. And it was really the first online travel site of any size. And it grew like a weed. And so I finally said, I don't want to be CEO anymore. I want to do that. Everybody said, you're crazy. You know, and I said, no, I think it'll be big. So I stopped being CIO and I became president of this little division with 12 people. And eventually we took it public for $1.2 billion. So that was a huge, interesting entrepreneurship journey because we grew up inside American Airlines, which is the story of one of my books. And then eventually, after about 5 years, Sabre wanted to take it private. They thought it was their future. They wanted it back. I thought they would screw it up, so I quit. They took it private. And they did screw it up. They eventually sold it for $200 million to Expedia.
Oh.
And then I started a career as a public speaker and an author. And I was a venture capitalist. I was with General Catalyst Partners. And we were, pardon me, I'm going to just mute my mic and cough. There we go. I was with General Catalyst, and we got the idea for vertical search in travel. And there were a couple of small companies doing something like that, and we decided to found one. That's kayak.com.
Hmm.
I was chairman there for 8 years. We took that public and eventually sold it to booking.com for 1.8 billion.
When did you guys start Kayak?
Oh gosh, it was probably 2004 or 6, something like that.
We used to use you guys when you first came out.
Did you?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's exceptionally popular. They have something like 60 million mobile downloads.
We were using the web-based version. I used to work
Yeah,
in telecom.
sure.
So anytime that
Mhm.
we had to move around, you guys always had the best rates.
Yeah, well, and it was very fast and
Oh yeah.
a very compliant. And so here I am now. I've also been on, I've served on 20 boards of directors, 7 public companies.
Well, that's
Most
all.
of them were sold. Some few died. I've done 5 startups. I've written 2 books. So now I'm doing board work. Last year I became a virtual speaker. I built a studio here in my house because I couldn't go on the road. I did 50 virtual gigs.
Nice.
So now I'm a speaker and an author and a board member and still an angel investor. Do a lot of advisory board work for startups.
On the angel side, are you doing that as a solo angel or are you with any of the groups?
I was with the Sierra Angels for a long
Right.
time. That's one of the oldest angel groups in the West. It's here in Incline Village in Nevada, where I am. You can see them at Lake Tahoe. I wish that was my view. It's not, but and now I'm really just myself.
That's awesome. What kind of experiences did you have? Well, it wasn't just Kayak. You did Kayak and one other, right?
Travelocity.
Travelocity. Okay. What was that one like? I mean, was that another one that just was born out of a, hey, let's just go.
Well, as I said, as I said in the story I was telling, I was, it was a little department at American Airlines online with Easy Sabre. We put it on the internet. It started to grow like crazy. We actually discussed doing it as a joint venture with Microsoft. Bill wanted to do a travel thing, but these were 2 very big companies who were like elephants making love. They just couldn't figure out how to do it right. Took a long time.
What?
So we didn't succeed. They brought out Expedia. A lot of people don't remember Expedia started inside Microsoft. Travelocity started inside American. So it's very different doing entrepreneurship. It's not hard to get money or space or computers, but there are a bunch of things that I talk about in my book on innovation. First of all, we had to create our own culture. So I moved out of the building. We stopped wearing, Americans still wearing suits and ties. It was crazy. We got people, we had a lot of people on loan. They were reporting to 2 bosses. That didn't work very well. Eventually we got to separate them. We lost a lot of corporate services that we didn't want. Purchasing was too slow and adversarial. IT didn't work very well for us, those kind of things. We kept legal because we got sued a lot. We had a separate budget that was really held by the CEO because everybody wanted our money and thought we were going to fail.
Sure.
And we were losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
And everybody else is making money. So there are a number of steps you have to take to separate your culture, to build the right team. I brought in a hell of a lot of people from outside the airline culture because I wanted that culture clash. In the successful companies, you have good debate. And so the travel people and the non-travel people would argue, and that was healthy. And we moved out of the building. So there were a lot of steps that were necessary to make that a success. Now, Kayak, totally different, a venture-funded sort of traditional startup.
Right.
So it was good to be separate. And the hard part, when Travelocity grew up, they did the right thing. They took it public. They probably then should have brought it back and just left it alone.
Yeah.
But they brought it back and they broke it up. They sent marketing to marketing, sales to sales, IT to IT. And there was no esprit de corps. There was no leadership. It just collapsed.
Yeah.
It became just a brand. So that was sad.
Yeah, that is sad. I think a lot of people miss that when you try to take something back and you start trying to compartmentalize it after it just cut in its own compartment, you begin to dilute and you begin to just completely disassemble is the word that comes to mind.
Right.
You disassemble the whole point of why it was begun in the first place.
Well, you can do it different ways. You know, they could have made it a separate division.
Sure.
They could have left it spun off and just made money from it. Or the leader of the internet at REI told me that when the internet was small, they had an e-commerce division.
Yeah.
But they said, you know, when that grew up, we took the e-commerce division apart and we just poured the internet into the company and we made everybody responsible for it. And that's another way to do it. But you got to let it get big enough first.
Yeah.
That it's not going to get killed by, you know, the old guys. I know there's a story about Reed Hastings at Netflix saying eventually he had to have a separate meeting with the CD execs because he couldn't have the CD and the streaming people in the same meeting. Yeah. It just worked. And they were just fighting all the time instead of saying what's good for the company.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when you have the old guard and the new guard. See, it's interesting. You said that there was healthy debate because you brought people into the other venture from outside the travel industry and inside, healthy debate internally. But when you have an old guard mentality versus new guard mentality, that debate's never healthy.
Well, that's right. And the people I brought in, remember, we were all focused on the same product.
Yeah.
We weren't saying gas car, electric car.
Right.
We were saying Travelocity. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what's going to be so interesting to watch at a company like GM, you know, where they have this commitment to get rid of the internal combustion engine by 2035.
That's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Branching change, you know, versus Tesla, where it's just all about electric cars, and we don't have to argue about that. We can argue about what kind of electric car, but we don't have to argue about, well, our old sales channel and, you know, what are we going to do with the gas can manufacturers and all that kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. You know, being an angel investor, what are some of the things that you come across, or let's start with this. What's your sweet spot when it comes to what you like to look at?
Well, I'll tell you what I don't invest in is travel. And the reason is
I wonder why.
People come to me for travel. I say, you just give me stock. You know, if you want me to be on your advisory board, you want my name. So I'm not giving you money.
Yeah.
And some of them say, well, you have to. And I go, well, find somebody else. You know, forget about it. Because I got a drawer full of worthless stocks, so I don't need more. No, I'm looking for, you know, as I look at pitches, the thing that I see missing most of the time is you see people who have a really interesting idea, probably a decent go-to-market, decent plan to monetize. It's their go-to-market plan that's usually lacking. You know, it's they don't say, well, you know, then a miracle occurs and I have millions of customers. So they don't really talk about, you know, well, am I using search? Am I using social? Am I, you know, selling through intermediaries? Am I a B2B guy and I'm hiring bad? How am I going to do this? That seems to get like a quarter of a slide.
Do you think that's a lack of? Do you think that's just a lack of vision, or do you think that's just a lazy point? Because I've seen both, and I'm just wondering.
I think it can be both, and it can be I just don't know how I'm going to do it, so I'm jumping over it. You know, it's one of the hardest things. I mean, look, and it's changed so radically. When Travelocity started, we were using banner ads on the web. There was no search.
Yep.
We used radio and TV.
Yep.
Okay.
Those were the three. Remember that.
The way people started. Kayak was 100% search until just before we went public, and we bought a lot of TV to make Wall Street happy, right? And that worked out. But search terms were cheap, and there was no social then when we started it. You know, now social is huge, but you know, people have moved on to video and TikTok, and of course, you know, at least 70% of Kayak's lift was viral.
Yeah.
People loved it. And they talked to people. They didn't really know what it was, but they knew that it was faster and easier to use than anything else.
It was interesting, our experience with Kayak. And again, this is when I was working in telco. It was one of the engineering technicians. He says, we need to book a flight. Go check Travelocity, go check Kayak. And I was like, what's Kayak? He goes, go get on kayak.com. So most of what we knew of Kayak wasn't even search. It was somebody else had already used it, and they said, go use that. And it's like,
exactly.
It was the best.
Model.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting thing today is there's so many different models. Travelocity was an online travel agency.
Yeah.
Kayak was a search engine, and it was pay-per-click.
Yep.
And we said to the airlines, look, people search us, and then when we come to you, they don't go to the first page. That's where Google dumps your customers. We take them to the last page. They put in their name and credit card, and they're done.
Yeah.
So our clicks are worth way more than Google clicks. And they went, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So whether it's building a platform, whether it's a subscription model, how are you aggregating your customers, and what is your new model for the new world, right? Yeah. And of course, everybody wants to be SaaS of some kind today, and that can work. I mean, look, Philips, the lighting company, just went to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam and said, we don't want to sell you light bulbs anymore. Because why not? So we want to sell you light. I said, what? We want to sell you light. We want to light the airport for the next 20 years. So we're going to charge you this. We'll pay for the power. We'll pay for the lamps. We'll do the servicing. We'll replace the lights. We'll do all of it.
Wow.
And they got a 20-year contract for lighting. So they immediately built bulbs that last twice as long.
Oh, sure.
Because they can. They put in bulbs that use 75% less power. They're in the circular economy, so they take the bulbs out, recycle and remanufacture them. Jeez. And they've got a recurring revenue stream, which is worth more to Wall Street.
Oh, absolutely. Valuation is based on what you have on paper.
So there are lots of companies who are looking at different kinds of as a service, because as a service started in software, but now it's moving into industry.
It's interesting that there are still a lot of people that want to get into SaaS. We were just at the marketing, advertising, retail conference here in Las Vegas. Young trio of kids are creating this augmented reality app. It's called QuickFit. And basically it literally takes clothing and fits it on your body as an AR, and it right in your phone. And they just did a little initial little Kickstarter thing, and they got a couple grand out of it. And I looked at that and I was like, I love the idea. I don't think you guys are anywhere near where you should be as far as fundraising. I mean, I get it. You got some small costs to cover, but I wonder where the rest of it is. Because they had a great presentation, what the app can do, its plans and stuff like that. And I'm like, boy, if you guys stood in front of some of the angels I know, they'd eat you alive.
Yeah, well, you got to learn.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell people who come to me with a bad pitch deck, I help them.
Yeah.
Fix the deck, and then I said, go meet some angels who you're sure won't invest, and let them rip you.
Yeah.
It's like starting in Boston. You don't start on Broadway. You open in Boston.
Yep.
Right. So go somewhere and get the crap kicked out of you and learn what's wrong, and get better at your pitch, because it may be great, but if the pitch isn't there, look, VCs don't hire the idea, they hire the people.
That's right.
You invest in the people as much as the idea. So it's the people, the idea, and then, the market size and how you're going to attack the market, because they know the idea will never in the end be what it was in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to change. And it's those people who won't change. They're the ones you see on Shark Tank, where all the sharks go, you suck. And the guy goes, you're crazy. I'm doing this anyway. You're like, yeah. And you're just going to burn a lot of money.
Yeah. Burn through all your savings, buddy, because you just got told it's not going to work. Was that, there's a thing going around. It was me talking about TikTok. There was an actual audio going around. 4 things: make the plan, execute the plan, realize the plan's going off the rails, throw away the plan. and that's essentially just about any startup. No.
Yeah.
And any general strategist is even in war, they have a plan C, D, E, and F for a reason. A and B usually don't play out the way you think they do. That's not in any war. So
battle plan never survives first contact with the enemy.
No, never does, because usually the enemy's got other ideas.
Sales plan never survives contact with the customer. So, it's all about prototyping. And somebody said a great thing once: it's prototype as if you were right, and then listen as if you were wrong.
Yeah.
Don't fall in love with your prototype. Somebody calls your baby ugly, it's probably ugly. You know,
And there's nothing wrong with ugly. That's the part that most people have to still remember. Your baby's ugly.
That's right.
Okay, now let's go fix that.
Ed Catmull at Pixar, it says new movies are ugly babies.
Yep.
Calls them ugly babies. And they're, you know, they're really ugly and you hope it's going to grow up to be nice, but you got to do the care and feeding.
Yeah.
Until it grows up into something. You know, I have a new granddaughter. I didn't see her during COVID. So she was born. I didn't see her till she was 1. By the time she was 1, she was great. But, you know, before 1, not so great probably.
Who was it that did it? Somebody was talking about childbirth, and they said my wife had given birth to a lizard.
Yeah,
the thing changed colors 3 times.
Yeah.
But this is in any startup. The colors are never what you originally start with. I mean, everybody rebrands. You know, the logo's never the same. I mean,
Look, my last startup was an AI startup. I got a call one day from Ginny Rometty, who was the chairman of IBM, and I knew Ginny. And she said, would you come up here and teach IBM Watson about travel?
Wow.
I said, well, that sounds, is there, you know, will you send me a ticket? I said, no. You know, difficult. We're IBM, you're going to come. And so that led eventually to a company they invested in called Wayblazer, and I partnered with the former GM of Watson. And we made a lot of mistakes, but we were way early in AI, and we were selling to IT, and we were offering natural language search for their websites. So you can say, I want to go to the Caribbean in January with my kids. I need to have golf and a lazy river, and boom, you'd find it. And you can't do that on any travel website. Every website says, where do you want to go and what day? And then we used AI to search out the right images. So you wouldn't just see the front of the hotel, you'd see the lazy river or golf.
Sure.
And we'd search out the reviews that said best golf in the Caribbean. The problem was that we were selling to the wrong people. The CIOs had a list a mile long. And even though we had proof that we could raise conversion, they didn't really care. We should have been selling to the CFO.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the team who could get in the door to the CFO. Now, in the end, just before we failed, we switched and created chatbot ads. So on a page, let's say you're reading an article about, I don't know, the Seychelles Islands.
Yeah.
There's a little chatbot in the corner, and it's saying, hey, look over here. You want to go to the Seychelles? And you say, yeah, I want to go in January. And it would start a dialogue with you and engage you right on the page.
That's you guys?
We did that, and the company's gone now. But we were selling to marketing. And the thing about selling to marketing is they'll try anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, 50% of marketing budgets are experiments because nobody knows what works. So, you know, it's not only to build the best product, and we had an awesome product. It's, do I have the right sales force selling to the right customer that I can move fast enough to gain revenue? Because in the B2B world, everybody wants to sell to General Motors or Pepsi-Cola or American Airlines. You die doing that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It takes too long. Those people take a year to, you know, set up a meeting.
Yeah.
So it's important to, you know, have early successes with proof of concept, but find the right person in the company to sell to, or sell to smaller companies who can move faster. And my daughter, of all things, is a travel agent. And I spent most of my career trying to put her in business.
I was going to say, how did that happen?
Well, you know, it's a funny story, and it's instructive to young entrepreneurs in your audience. She was an opera singer, a voice major at Boston University.
Wow.
Doing great, and lost her singing voice to Lyme disease.
Oh.
So she couldn't sing. She could speak, but she couldn't sing. So she croaked her way through graduation. What am I going to do, Dad? She tried a little bit of theater and stuff, and she said, maybe I could be a travel agent. And they said, well, you've been to 50 countries with me, you know, perhaps. And so she went to work for a woman in LA who just did Stars and Billionaires. And she came and told me, you know that pirate movie? Maybe I'm doing those guys. Or, you know, movie stars. You can never tell me who she was working for. Well, you know, last year she opened her own business, sold $1 million of travel in her first year, 2 years ago. Then COVID hit. Of course, her business went away, but she had a baby, so that's okay. And now it's just come back strong. My son, when he was 16, he was totally into video games. And he and a bunch of other kids 9 other kids wrote a game called Day of Defeat. And by the time he was a sophomore in college, 4 years later, that game had 50,000 players a day, and they sold it to Valve for $300,000. So he dropped out of college, worked at Valve for a year, and then they said, "Okay, we're done with you. We don't need you anymore." And he thankfully went back to college, and then he went to get a degree at a gaming school that I'd helped found at SMU in Dallas. He went on to work at Sony Electronic Arts, started his own game company, which built an amazing game, was very successful game, but not successful enough to keep a company going.
Yeah.
So he failed. But did he fail? No, he's gotten 2 awesome jobs since, and now is a senior gaming executive at Microsoft. So you don't know where kids are going to end up. I thought he was playing too much video games, and now he's a successful executive in video gaming.
Yeah, when we were young in those days, you could kind of predict where you were headed. I mean, it was easy to plan out, and there wasn't very much variables. Technology has changed so much. Your statement is more truer than ever. I mean, this one, he's got the aptitude for flight. He does a lot of online flying. He's in the community of online pilots, some of them that have pilot's license. In fact, one of his buddies is, I believe, an active naval pilot. Flies on F-18, and they hang out. Like, he flies out to air shows. So Great. He's in that realm, but he doesn't have his pilot's license yet. And his other interest is DJing. Now, most people look at that and go, "Oh my God, not another one." This is Las Vegas, and you're in Reno. You know our state.
Yeah.
I know guys that'll do $1,000 or $2,000 in a weekend just playing pools, and they're nobodies.
Yeah. So it can work. It depends where you are, right?
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to be a big DJ in Montana.
No, I don't know. I don't know too many longhorns out there that really appreciate that kind of music.
The cows don't dig. Yeah, you don't know. And look, I've had how many careers? I was a travel agent. I was a big company CEO. I did 2 startups. I'm a professional speaker. I've written 2 books. Been a board member. I'm an investor. I'm chairman of a big boys and girls camp that I almost bought 50 years ago.
Nice.
So I'm involved in camping. Today, what's so awesome today is you could do a startup. Travelocity went public with 3,000 people. Kayak went public with 200 people. Why? Well, because of the cloud, right? And because of search. We didn't need all those things. So, and my son built a game that really could compete with a large electronic arts game where they spent $200 million. They did it with 4 guys, on credit cards. And you can do that today.
Yeah.
But you still need to have, in the end, probably a fairly large marketing budget, or just be, incredibly sticky, or better, both.
Yeah. There's been, there's been some interesting developments within the AI community where it's not as hard to know AI as it used to be.
Oh no, much easier than was. I mean, my AI company was 6 years ago. We were using Stone tools. Even Watson, we had to move beyond that. But we were having to build our own graphs and our own graph database and teach things. Now you can buy, pre-taught databases, and it's about putting the components together.
Yeah,
it's still not easy.
No. There's still work to be done, but it's easier to put it together.
Oh yeah, and I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg with Amazon Echo and Google and those things, because we use those for voice all the time, but I'm still typing into my computer. Why? Why aren't I just talking to my computer? Well, that's going to happen. It's going to change. Voice is going to be the next interface for sure. And we're not going to become these hunched over people with thumbs. We're going to be talking.
With the advancements of some of the things that have happened with AI already, like AI voice. I don't know if you remember, there was a thing circulating a while where Google had a AI test, and they actually had the Google AI book a hair appointment for somebody.
Yeah.
Did you see that video? I thought that was amazing, and I'm like, okay, they have it. Why the hell isn't it out in the marketplace yet? It's because it wasn't done. That was really just testing it. But there are now companies out, not Google.
Oh, yeah,
all
there are
those
lots of them
startups,
that do that.
and
Sure.
the AI voice is like really getting solidly convincing.
Right.
In
Well, look at
and
the new movie about Tony Bourdain that just came out. There's a big controversy because he's not actually saying several of the lines. They used an auto-generated voice that sounds like him. So now people are freaking out saying, well, it's a documentary about him. It's supposed to be him speaking. It's not. We're not going to have any idea that, the 2024 political ads, they're going to make people say anything.
well, they've already
And
had
that's frightening.
they've actually already caught it. There were a couple of I can't remember
Deepfakes.
which one, but there were already a couple of deep fakes discovered on certain
yeah.
that were done. It's to the point where the AI, the thing that I'm glad right now is the AI isn't thinking for itself yet. It got close.
Right.
Where they had that little scare with Google where the two AI started creating their own language and the engineers shut it off because it started shorting the English. Where one AI was talking, all of a sudden it would start taking out articles, it would double certain things, and then the other side would do the same thing, and they started literally communicating in a new language, and the engineers went, "We don't know what this is, kill it," before they get far along.
That's right. I remember at Microsoft. Yep.
Yeah, and that was crazy to me. That okay, so only because I read the book Deep Neural Networks just to kind of try to figure out how AI does all of this and what the programmers are actually doing. By the way, I hate statistics, just saying. But the idea of what a deep neural network can do and its ability to think as clearly as it does without emotion, that's the part that scares humans because of the fact.
Yeah, as it should.
Yeah.
So, we need, we do need, my former partner has started an association and it's working in many countries, not the US, around good, safe AI. And Musk is involved in that and others. It's very important because, that could be the thing that runs away with us. But on the other hand, it's very powerful stuff and it can do amazing things. And anybody who isn't deploying it is behind the curve. And what you have to remember is that once you have it, it's learning 24/7 by 365. So if you don't have it, you're never going to catch up with your competitor who does.
Yeah.
Because you can't learn as fast as they do.
Correct. And I think one of the best parts about that too is you can direct the learning right now. Eventually that's going to be tougher because you're going to have to justify the direction of the learning when it becomes, that's that whole thing about self-awareness. When AI becomes self-aware, we're screwed. Maybe. That's
well, I think
what's
it's important to understand as leaders is that you don't want your programmer deciding your policy.
Yeah.
So, if the programmer builds their own biases into the algorithm,
there's going to be problems.
Then you could have all kinds of issues.
Mm-hmm.
And they aren't that smart. Look, I got a call from one of our customers and said, your AI is busted. And I said, well, what's wrong? And they said, well, it says that this Best Western hotel has a golf course. Well, there isn't a Best Western hotel in the world with a golf course.
Yeah.
So I went, well, let's go see why it's broken. And I looked at the listing, didn't say anything. One of the images was a picture of their one-hole mini golf. And it had a little golf flag, right? So the AI looked at it, saw the round hole, the grass, the hole. So we said, no, the flag has to be at least 4 feet high, before you're 5 feet high, before you qualify as a golf course. And so, it still needs lots of training.
Yeah, well, and that's the good part is that we can still train it. Right now, it's. I think as it learns, as long as we're, like you said, staying on top of what it is, directing the learning, I think we'll always be able to stay ahead.
Well, that's right. And I think it's so important for, startups today to really think about, the level of digital disruption that's going on in the country and the world. My new book is Disruption Off, the technological disruption that's coming for you and how to avoid it.
Right.
And, in that book, I go through a dozen technologies that are really disrupting business. And so the question is, do you want to be a disruptor? and how do you want to be a disruptor?
Yeah.
Because, disruption, innovation, disruption, they're just two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
The only reason you call it a disruption is because you didn't do it. If you did it, it would be an innovation, right?
Oh,
But
sure.
you didn't.
Yeah.
So it was a disruption. So whether it's, 5G or cloud or big data or Internet of Things or 3D printing or blockchain or robotics, what are you going to latch on to? Because big companies are trying to do this and they're too slow and lumbering to. So you want to be the startup that sells it to them or gets bought by them.
Yep.
Because you looked at their business and said, how can I do this differently? I watched a show last night on the History Channel called The Machines That Built America. And they were showing the guy who really started Caterpillar, and his name wasn't Caterpillar, obviously,
Nope.
but he built a 19-ton tractor that was, awesome, steam powered, but it kept sinking in the mud. And he figured out how to build those Caterpillar tracks, right, on it that made it more successful, but still it wasn't as successful as the guy who had a steam tractor and said, why don't I take the gasoline engine from my farm and put it on a tractor?
Yep.
And his tractor hardly weighed anything.
Yep.
And was, that became John Deere.
Yep.
And then, Ford, who looked at cars and said, I can make tractors. So, innovation is not necessarily anything new. I mean, Travelocity just took a typical travel agency and put it online.
Yeah.
Behind the HTML, we were writing tickets, doing refunds. We had 2,000 people in customer service. It wasn't that revolutionary, but it was worth, $1 billion.
Yeah, it was enough. It was enough to get a check.
Apple didn't invent the phone
Nope.
or the music player or the watch. And now their watch sales are bigger than the entire Switch watch business. So you don't have to change the world. You just have to come at it a different way. Whether it's look at people who are like experienced disruptors.
Yeah.
Apple totally disrupted music, right? With their iTunes,
Mhm.
and then Spotify killed them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then did it again, and Apple killed Nokia in the phone business.
Yep.
Right. And Uber killed cabs. And what is Uber? It's just software.
Yeah.
I was asked to go speak to the American Limousine Association early in Uber's tenure, and I gave a speech on innovation. But somebody said, "Well, what can we do about Uber?" I said, "Get some bloody software." What's wrong with you people? You have the cars, you have the drivers, you have the brand, you have the customers. You just don't have software. All Uber has is a piece of software that calls the car and charges you for it.
Yep.
The ride's the same. At that time, Uber was just black cars, right?
Yep.
But they couldn't see to get out of their way. I got asked about, 5 years into after Google started to speak to the Yellow Pages Association. And I wanted to just say, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, you're toast.
Yeah, exactly.
But they paid me a lot of money. So
You couldn't
I
say
took
that.
an hour to kind of weave it together for them. But they could have been Google,
They could have.
I mean, look, in the Yellow Pages, if you want to buy a hat, you had to look up haberdashery. You had to know what that was. I mean, you couldn't come at it. With search, you can put in whatever you want.
And
One of the brilliant marketing things was that, who owns mosquitoes.com? Off.
I was going to say,
Off.
it's either Black Flag or off.
Right, because if you're searching for mosquitoes, you want to kill them, right?
Yeah.
So, what does your customer want? I mean, you can go to REI and search for ice climbing.
Yeah.
They don't sell ice climbing,
Nope.
but they sell crampons and coats and boots and tents. So you need to think about, the customer doesn't want your product. They want what it does, right? And so you have to be able to present it. It's like all these, you go to a website for clothing and they always say shop by brand. And I think it's ridiculous. Now, some people are hooked on brands, but I want a shirt first and then maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know if these guys have shirts that I like.
Some of the best brands have horrible shirts. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll take a Hanes over, well, I won't say the other name, but I'll take a Hanes over certain other brands that I know you'd pay $60, $70 for. I'll take a Hanes shirt.
I don't need a $70 t-shirt. That's
No,
what
I
it
don't
costs.
need, yeah, why would I
But-
want to spend $70 on a name?
So I think it's about, looking at these disruptive technologies and then looking at, whether it's platforms or outcomes, like Philips was selling an outcome. Where you
Yeah.
write your
Why were they? My goodness.
or going D2C in a business that's never had D2C, like Casper selling mattresses online,
Mhm.
or a subscription business like the Razor subscription business. Who would have thought you'd subscribe to a Razor? So you can disrupt through changing the customer experience, through changing how people pay for something, with a traditional product, changing how they get it, which was Travelocity,
Right.
right? Building a platform. But as you say, you have to be willing to take risk, and you have to be willing to fail.
Yeah.
And then, watch the game films. I mean, why do sports teams watch game films? Not
So-
to assess blame,
Right.
to ensure victory, right? They know they're going to lose. They don't win every game. I mean, we always have this never fail mentality. Look, in baseball, if you fail 70% of the time, you're awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
300.
Yeah.
Right?
300 batting
got a lot
average is really good. It's really good.
You get a lot of chances, and there's, not a lot of penalty for failure.
Yeah.
But that means you got to test, you got to build prototypes, you got to use the 3D printer to check out what you're going to do. And then you have to listen to the customer and go, yeah, my idea isn't perfect. Because
Yeah.
many people build a product to solve a problem in their life.
Mhm.
And that's fine.
Mhm.
I've dealt with inventors who do that, make incredible things. But you got to make sure a lot of people have that problem,
Yeah.
because some people just get religion about the problem, and there are only 8 people who have it. There's nobody to sell to, right?
A buddy of mine just recently went back. They were working on an emergency. It was a competitor to Life Alert, and it was basically an app-based deal. And they were right about there to launch, and then pandemic hit, and then took a break. Market did what it did, and they were about to go back into it. And he went out and made an investment to have a market research company go back and say, hey, is this still something that would be viable? He dumped in 5 figures to go get that research done. They came back and they said, nope, you'd be throwing good money after bad. Let it go. And he's like, well, what do I tell the investor? And he goes, I would tell the investor, cut your losses and just go. Don't do this. And they didn't. He listened.
The world changed.
The world changed.
E-commerce is up 50%. 30% of doctor visits last year were telehealth.
Yeah,
right?
and it's still growing. I have that.
Amazon hired, Walmart and Amazon both hired 500,000 people. Most people don't want to go back to the office full time.
Yeah.
What is that? I just talked to I'm going to give a speech to a big furniture building association, all the manufacturers, and they got a double whammy, because not only are people not building new offices, they're not equipped to sell direct. They all sell through dealers.
Yeah.
So they can't even help people in their home office. So
Yeah.
they've got to transform.
Yeah.
And there's so many businesses like that who are just not going to be the same. And business travel is not going to come back
Yeah.
to 100%.
Yeah, we have.
We've learned-
Yeah, here in Las Vegas, we have the World Market Center, and it's been very empty since we
Yeah.
opened. And they usually have 2 shows a year, and those shows are usually packed. I haven't seen one show yet. I do know that.
No, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm a public speaker. Last year I did great virtually. This year my business has dried up both virtually and physically. Nobody's having meetings much at all.
Yeah.
And they're all waiting for the fall where they think they can meet in person.
Yeah.
But now we have this Delta wave of COVID. Las Vegas are asking put masks back on. I mean, look, I was in Vegas a couple of weeks ago. I'm vaccinated, but there are all these guys who are 30 and their luggage is a cooler. I'm looking at that guy and say, he's not vaccinated. I'm going to put my mask on. So that ain't gonna last. And I met with a bunch of meeting planners, and here's a good thing for entrepreneurs to think about is I'm talking about 300 meeting planners, and they say, well, we're dead tired of virtual. And we're not going to do that anymore. Everybody's going to go back to physical. And our job is to have a great meeting in a great location. And I go, no, let me put my CEO hat on. Your job is to create the meeting I want.
Yeah.
To motivate my customers, to get my teams excited about the new direction of the company, to stoke my dealers about the new products. And if it happens to be in a nice place, that's fine. But guess what we found last year? Most people had more attendees in virtual meetings than they ever had at their physical conventions. And even the booths worked and they got more leads.
Yeah.
So I think hybrid is the way to go. And these planners are saying, oh, hybrid's too expensive and it's hard to do and this and that. I go, look, talk to a CFO. They're not going to do the way they did before. I'm on the board of 2 companies, gotten rid of their annual dealer meetings. They're doing them by video. They work fine. So, but these guys are still saying, as the guy said in the movie I watched last night to Henry Ford, Henry's looking at a tractor when he's 12 and his dad said, that will never replace a horse. Come on me. You know, I mean, that's, yeah, well, sorry, horse. You know, I'm not pulling the tractor.
It actually sounds like you just threw out a problem that needs a solution there. I mean, hybrid.
Well, I've been talking
expensive,
to video production companies to say, look, instead of when somebody wants a hybrid meeting, say, well, that's going to involve us putting a union camera operator in every small breakout room along with a guy, you know, running a board. No, you put a GoPro in every meeting room and that's all you need. Now, in the main tent, you're right. One of these cameras, the main tent, you need a couple of camera operators and a big screen and all that stuff, but you have that anyway.
Yeah. So
all you got to do is automate the breakouts. I mean, I have a little thing here called the Blackmagic A10, which is a under $1,000 mixer.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal every week now. That is as good as a professional TV mixer, and I can run it with a remote in one hand. Costs $1,000. My camera costs $700. I don't need a $12,000 camera and a $10,000 mixer and a $75,000 a year operator. You don't need it. So somebody's going to crack that and say, you know, and I have a friend he goes to meetings with a bicycle on the back of his bike. You know, he has all the gear he needs in his saddlebags. Right?
Perfect.
And he charges not very much and he's fully booked. He's making good money.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like people who thought, well, don't worry, travel agents, Travelocity will never sell cruises. Wrong. Became the biggest seller of cruises in the world.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So, you know, you have to, that doesn't mean that travel agents went away. Half of them are still here.
Oh, yeah.
They evolved into actually adding value. They're consultants.
Yeah.
Like
agents. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I have somebody who helps me manage my money. And when I go on a $20,000 safari to Africa, I call my daughter.
Yeah.
And when I buy a ticket to New York, I don't. You know, so there are pieces in markets that you can chip away at. You don't have to go for the whole thing. You just have to look at the business in a different way.
I'll tell you, I'd be surprised if somebody after hearing this doesn't start working on that, what you just shared. And I wouldn't be surprised if you even get a couple calls.
You know, look, it's like the hybrid office. That's the way the office is to be. It's like at another company where I'm on the board, we used to send a salesperson and a sales engineer to every meeting.
Yeah.
Now we only send the salesperson. The engineer appears on video. You know, the salesperson can take you out and buy you dinner, and the engineer can talk bits and bytes and speeds and feeds.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just cut the cost. And I'm a large consulting company I was working with had $100 million travel budget last year, 2 years ago. This year it's 50.
There you go.
Consultants spend more on travel than anybody, 50 million bucks, but they cut it in half. They said, we figured out how to do it. We figured out how much of what we can do can be done by video. We don't have to go there.
Well, even with our business, and we have we do some marketing AI, you know, automated lead generation. If I go out to a meeting, my CTO is all the way in Florida. I'm in Vegas. So I sit down and talk to somebody. I just pull them up on a quick Zoom, like what we're on now.
Right.
We have a conversation, and from there we just keep going.
Exactly. And you know, my son's video game company had a policy against work from home before COVID. And then during COVID, 100% of people work from home. Well, now, you know, they're trying to get everybody back in the office. HR is, and the managers are fighting it because they said, look, at EA and these other game companies, they're letting gamers live wherever they want.
Yeah.
And when you get an offer for a new job and you don't have to talk to your wife and kids and say, well, we're going to pack up the house, get the kids out of school, move across the country, you just change your IP address.
Yep.
that means boom. Oh, I don't like you, I'm out. And hiring managers haven't figured that out yet, that the portability of not everybody, but a lot of people has changed. Now, certainly more people are going to come back to work than said they would, but I think we're going to see this, 3 days in, 2 days out, or the reverse.
Or yeah.
It's going to be very common.
Well, you got you know who R&R is, R&R marketing
Yeah.
part down here. They had a 2-story building. They're selling it.
Oh, I'm sure. Look at the firewall company I'm on the board of. We're selling two buildings. Another company I just left, Boingo, big public company. We sold the company. Huh? Sorry?
I remember them. I remember Boingo.
Boingo. Well, we sold the company for 900 million, so it was a good deal.
Yeah.
And we evolved. I mean, there's a history of evolution. So Sky Dayton started that company as Wi-Fi hotspots.
Yeah.
And it was hard to monetize, but they won big in airports. So everybody used Boingo when they went through airports. You had a subscription every month and you go through airports, and it was great. Then airports said, we want free Wi-Fi. And we said, well, so we were subscription based. We lost that subscription revenue. We still had the infrastructure. So he said, what else can we do with the infrastructure? Well, just at that time, all the telcos were trying to figure out how can they handle the cell volume in an airport.
Yeah.
Well, we had all these endpoints. So we basically put small cell everywhere.
Yep.
And we became a huge cellular carrier because they want to get you on Wi-Fi.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then we needed to grow again. And we found that the US military wanted Wi-Fi on all the military bases. So we did all the US military bases and became another huge business for us. So you've got to transform, and that company has continued. Now we're putting up cell towers and small cell, but it was time to sell. And that company has a big headquarters in LA.
Nice.
They're not going to keep the 2 stories.
No,
At the top. They're going to keep one.
Yeah. I think the only big physical need coming shortly is going to be server space, and even that is now outsourced. I mean, we have Switch down here. They're now opening a 6.
We have Switch.
Yeah,
Switch
yeah.
and
You guys have
Replay.
them up there too. That's right. They opened up there. They're opening a 6th building down here.
Yeah. It's
six.
massive.
Oh, it's insane.
Somebody last night, I'm on the board of another little company, and they said, well, we're partnering these guys who have a boutique data center. I said, what the hell is a boutique data center? They couldn't really tell me. I said, is that like a bespoke data center? Come on, I built data centers. I had one of the biggest in the world at American Airlines. When I was there, we had a terabyte of disk. We were one of the first companies to have a terabyte. Wow. It cost me $20 million, and it was the size of a house, basically, a ball. And, it's crazy. I mean, this is a terabyte now.
Yeah.
So you think about how that's changed, and as we think about, I mean, IT has some big issues with work from home, which everybody is saying WFH. They really need to say WFA, which is work from anywhere.
Yep.
And then am I going to do desktop virtualization? How am I going to protect all these endpoints? I really have to put it all in the cloud, and I have to virtualize all those desktops.
Yep.
And I have to use VPNs, and I have to keep, because security. I read an article yesterday. I was doing some narration, and this guy talked about creme brulee security. I said, what do you mean? He said, hard shell, gooey inside.
Ooh.
And that's the way most security's been. It's been this hard shell around the data center, and maybe the big office. And once you're in, you're in. So it can't work that way anymore, because there is no office. So we have all these IoT devices, all these endpoints, all these locations, and they all have to be hardened, because you're fighting against state actors here who are extremely sophisticated. So we have to think about how that changes IT's role, and what are the opportunities for startups.
Oh, sure.
And figuring that out.
Whoever figures out how to harden every endpoint, that's gonna be the next 9-figure deal.
The big deal.
Cool. Hey guys, we're gonna take a short, quick break. This is, by the way, I don't want to stop, but we have to take a break. When we come back, we're gonna go ahead and chat a little bit more about where you can find Terry, some of the other ventures, and of course his books. We're definitely going to talk about the books. So give us 30 seconds. We'll be right back. And we're back, guys, hanging out with Terry Jones, innovator, angel investor, author, speaker. Shit, you about done it all, pretty much.
CEO, chairman.
CEO, chairman, advisor, board member. It's just line them up, guys. He's been there and he's done that, and he shared a ton of information. I think he's actually shared about 3 or 4 business ideas too. So for you entrepreneurs, if you were really paying attention, he laid out pretty much a freaking roadmap if you're really listening. Anyway, at this point, this is the time when we get to share some of the cool stuff that he's promoting. Like right now, you see up on his backboard there's 2 books that he's written. One about innovation, one about disruption. If you guys were listening earlier, he said there are actually two sides of the same coin. It just depends on the perspective. I'm definitely grabbing both books. I want to read them because I want to see this. But can you give us some background on what inspired the books in the first place?
Well, as a speaker, when I began speaking, I wanted to speak a lot about Travelocity and tell the story. And obviously, they got a little long in the tooth after 20 years. So I wrote this book on innovation, which really it's not just about Travelocity. It is my philosophy of innovation, but it does go through the entrepreneurship versus entrepreneurship. So there's lots of prescriptions in there, and it's a cookbook. It's 72 3-page chapters.
Wow.
You can read it front to back to front. It's about team. It's about culture. It's about funding. It's a very quick read. You can get it on Amazon, and it's available in paperback and in Kindle format and in audio. And I narrate it myself because I'm a speaker. And then Disruption Off, I wrote a couple of years ago because I've been speaking a lot about digital disruption and digital transformation. And as I said, innovation and disruption are just 2 sides of the same coin. So the book is in kind of 2 sections. The first half is 10 disruptive technologies, whether it's AI, cloud, 5G, 3D printing, you name it, with examples of how they're being deployed in industry in ways you probably haven't thought about.
Right.
Like 90% of hearing aids are now 3D printed. And that change happened over 4 years.
Wow.
And because they're custom fitted, right?
That's right.
And look at the same thing in dentistry. Most fillings now are done with a 3D CNC machine. So we're seeing that stuff being adopted. So the first half of the book is to scare the crap out of you. And the second half of the book is, what do I do about it? If you're in an existing company, what is it that I need to do to resolve those issues of disruption? And the number one thing is you have to take more risk.
Yeah.
Because every company was founded by a risk taker, but risk gets pounded out of companies. And they don't take risks anymore. Their operational muscle becomes really strong and their innovation muscle is really weak. So you have to take risk and you have to be ready to fail. Because if you don't fail, you're not moving forward. And corporations don't like failure. And so, so as a leader, you have to say, look, the project Terry had, that new idea, it failed. We're promoting Terry, right? Or we're giving Terry another chance. Because if people see that a failed project, you kill projects, you should be killing projects, not people.
Yeah.
Because it was probably the idea that was wrong, not the person.
Yeah.
Now, if Terry fails over and over again, okay, you send him to the farm team, right? But put him on the bus out of town. But mostly that isn't it. So you have to take more risk. You really have to understand and listen to customers, and that's so easy to do in this connected world.
Thankfully.
Connected products. I mean, look, today, all John Deere's tractors are connected. So they don't have to wait for the annual meeting to hear what the dealer says they think the farmer is doing. They listen to the farmer every day and they can update it. That's why I love my Tesla so much. It's 5 years old, but it gets brand new every month. They send me new stuff for free.
Yeah.
Makes me very loyal. So there are lots of prescriptions in the second half of the book about what you need to do to be a more disruptive company. And you can get the books at Amazon, and you can learn more about me. Let me move over here. That says 30% discount. That discount isn't running right now. That was for a speech I did, but I happen to have this background. But tbjones.com is where you can find all my videos, lots and lots of videos you can watch if you want to learn more, where you can hire me as a speaker, where you can reach out and connect if you want, and you have an interesting idea, and if I'm interested, I'll write you back. You know, we might have an opportunity to talk.
That's beautiful. Awesome. So once again, guys, Amazon or right off the website, make sure you grab a copy of both books, because I'm sure both of them have a ton of golden nuggets in it. Is there any place, are you going to be any place somebody can actually see you online anytime soon, or any conference?
No, if you just come to the website, there'll be something. As I said, the speaking business is really quiet right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing some stuff, but right now I'm doing a whole bunch of narration for a company. They have 1,000 video clips of CIO predictions that were made in the last year. And I'm doing intros. We probably won't do 1,000, but we're putting them together with intros into podcasts, and it's kind of fun. So I'm doing a lot of.
Any interesting trends amongst the CIOs as far as their predictions?
Well, you know, they're all concerned about work from home.
Sure.
They're all concerned about security. They all know they need to move more quickly to the cloud. So, and you know, how do they connect with their customers better? Because CIOs, you know, used to be down in the boiler room, adding up the sales and keeping the books. And now they're chief with connecting with the customer, and they're leading, in most cases, the charge to digital transformation.
Yeah.
So you're seeing different types of people in that role doing different things than you've ever seen before. So they're all excited about connecting to the customer, but they know that connecting to the customer and work from home increases their attack surface.
Yeah.
And they're going to have more attacks. So they're trying to balance both, and it's very, very difficult. I was head of the committee at a public company for the last 4 years, and I had a little bit of hair before I took that job. I lost it all.
Maybe I should stay out of that room.
Yeah, you gotta keep it.
All right. Would be interested to know where that gets posted when you guys finally do that. If it's something public, that'd be awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's unfortunately the end of it. I'm sure we can go on with quite a few more stories. Terry's been wonderful having you on Java Chat. Really appreciate your time.
Let me know when it's going to be aired so I can promote it myself.
Oh, absolutely. That's our guys will make sure that you get the links as soon as it's posted. Guys, if you're watching online, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and the bell next to it. That tells you when we get another excellent guest like Terry online. This was one of the ones I was really waiting for, guys. I'm so glad that you came. If you're listening to us on Anchor.fm, or for that matter, any of the 12-something platforms that it's indicated to, make sure you subscribe or download there. If you're on Anchor.fm, show some love and support there. We'd love to have some. You can always use a little sharing too. Biggest one. Know somebody else that can do things here. Know somebody else who's an entrepreneur, probably get a nice little light bulb in their head after listening to any of this. Go share it with them. You know, let them see what's going on. Java Chat's here to be able to bring you killer guests like this with great information, great insights, knowledge, and experience for you guys. Just improve your life, improve your health, improve your brain. Keep you guys open-minded about what's going on in this world and how things are moving. It's a break next week, guys. So you know, we're always glad to have you like Terry on podcast. Make sure you guys take care of each other. Always end the same. And have a cool time. Take it through. Stay up. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And live. Myself, Cawfee with Mike. Terry Jones. Ciao for now.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Cawfee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.